From Washington, this is VOA News. I'm Dave DeForest reporting a bomb blast in Pakistan. Officials say a suicide bomb blast at a crowded park in Lahore Sunday killed at least 65 people and wounded about 300. Witnesses say a large number of Christian families celebrating Easter were present in the Gulshan Iqbal Park when the explosion occurred. A spokesman for a breakaway faction of the Pakistani Taliban says his group was responsible for the bombing. Ayaz Gul is taking a look at the incident.
This is the faction which has broken ties with the main Pakistani Taliban, but it has claimed responsibility, and the spokesman clearly said that the target of the bomber was actually the Christian community.
Ayaz Gul. Media reports say Syrian government forces, backed by Russian airstrikes, have retaken the ancient city of Palmyra from the Islamic State group. The Syrian armed forces said Sunday the takeover of Palmyra represents a fatal blow to the militants. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the remaining Islamic State fighters retreated to the east toward Deir ez-Zor. A spokesman for Ghanaian police say the force will provide protection for all presidential candidates and their running mates in the run-up to the November general election. There have been recent media reports that comments by politicians could spark electoral violence during the campaign. Activists crashed a memorial event near the stock exchange in Brussels Sunday. That event was being held in honor of those who were killed in last week's terrorist attacks. The right-wing activists shouted anti-immigration slogans and performed Nazi salutes. This is VOA News. A French national suspected of involvement in planning a terrorist attack has been arrested in the Netherlands. The 32-year-old, whose identity has not been released, was arrested Sunday in the port city of Rotterdam at the request of French authorities. He is expected to be extradited to France. 3 other people were detained in the raid. 2 of them were described as having an Algerian background, while the third was not identified.
In questa festa di Pasqua,
Pope Francis challenged the world on Easter Sunday to use what he called weapons of love against the evil of blind and brutal violence. That coming following the attacks in Brussels last week. The Pope, the leader of the world's Roman Catholics, presided over an Easter Mass under tight security in St. Peter's Square. Authorities in Mali say 2 men with suspected links to al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb have been arrested in connection with attacks earlier this month in Ivory Coast. The gun and grenade attack on 3 hotels and a beach in the Ivorian resort town of Grand Bassam left at least 19 people dead. Police identified one of the suspects, Ould Mohammed, as a driver who brought the attackers to Ivory Coast. The French news agency quotes police sources as saying he is believed to be a close confidant of the mastermind behind the attacks. Fresh from his sweep of 3 Democratic caucuses, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders told a TV interviewer on Sunday that his campaign has momentum and can now see a path toward victory. Even with those victories, Sanders faces a difficult challenge in catching up with a front-runner, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Clinton still leads by just under 300 pledged delegates, which are allocated according to voting results. She also has the support of most of the so-called superdelegates. Those are free to support any candidate they choose. Many political observers have said Clinton's lead is insurmountable and argue Sanders should drop out and allow her to focus on the eventual Republican presidential nominee, but Sanders on Sunday rejected those calls. Myanmar's powerful military chief is vowing to keep the country and its citizens on the road to prosperity. He warned about challenges the nation could face as it becomes a democracy. Senior General Min Aung Hlaing spoke Sunday at the annual Armed Forces Day parade in the capital, Naypyidaw. Qatar's state-owned Al Jazeera news outlet says it is laying off about 500 people worldwide. Those latest spending cuts for the Gulf state are due to plummeting oil prices. From the VOA News Center in Washington, I'm David DeForest.
That's the latest world news from VOA.